Just keep on doing your best.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, without me there.
In the Pokemon anime, we've had several faces come and go as time has gone on. But if you can take yourself all the way back to November 14, 2002, this was the first time we saw such departures. Notably Misty, who at the time was one of the show's most popular characters as one of the main cast alongside Ash, Brock, and Team Rocket. This departure was extremely strange for me personally as a kid, considering that in the next series, Advanced Battle, we still had Brock and Ash. But in place of Misty, we gained May and Max. Well, I say gained, but more like they were forced upon us, more specifically Max. Seriously, I hated that kid, but today's video isn't to discuss that. Rather, my intention today is to explain to you all of the reasons why Misty is no longer featured as a main character within the series, and why the initial change took place. If you do go on to enjoy this video, it would mean a ton if you drop the video a like and maybe consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future. With all that out of the way, let's dive right in. So firstly, I want to talk about the in-universe reason, seeing as that's probably why some of us at a younger age would assume why she left. Essentially, at the end of the Johto series, it was written that one of the Nurse Joys had finally repaired Misty's bike, as well as the fact that her sisters had won the lottery. And with that big sum of money, they decided that rather than bother with the gym, they wanted to go on a big worldwide trip with their newfound wealth. And since her sisters had already long since given up on making trainers work for their badges, coupled with this new happening, it meant that if she wanted to make the Cerulean Gym mean anything, that Misty herself would need to take the helm as its leader. AKA she had a genuine obligation to come back, and she felt like she couldn't ignore her. Of course, this didn't come without any heartache or regret from the Water-type master-to-be. In fact, she was visibly torn up about it. But with Ash being the blockhead that we know him as, he mentioned how good it was that she finally got her bike back, considering she can now get home as fast as possible. And in response to his seeming lack of care, she even says the lines, "I can't believe Ash can talk to me like that," as if it means nothing to him after all we've been through. The worst part is that he isn't even sad about us having to split up. Now that pulls at the heartstrings. And not to mention that at this point in the series, she felt like she didn't actually want to go back to Cerulean and rather wanted to continue traveling. But after a battle with a couple of hooligans, it helped her come to the conclusion that her going back would be for the best. Even if she still wanted to walk alongside Ash and Brock as they continue their respective Pokemon journeys, she had obligations, and this moment served as a huge instance of character development for her. Because yeah, she had those obligations and she needed to fulfill them. And when she left Cerulean initially, it was to escape the reality of her upbringing, where her sisters were typically favored by their parents, as well as she just wasn't exactly the closest with them either. So when Ash found her outside and took that bike and broke it, it became something of an excuse for her. An excuse to travel and an excuse to grow closer to Ash. And from then on all the way to episode 273, Gotta Catch You Later, she remained as a fixture and a staple to the series. And as such, after all this time, her departure was extremely bittersweet. But this wasn't the only reason for her exit. In fact, the second point I want to speak about is the more businessy reason for why she left. Is businessy a word? Anywho, back nearly 2 decades ago, there were several meetings regarding Nintendo's blossoming newish series, and how the direction of it going forward would need to change and adapt with the times, specifically as we entered Hoenn. Regaining momentum was a central focus for the team, especially as Pokemania's run as one of the most explosive IPs in the world was starting to lose its luster and anime viewers began to drop. Several ideas were pitched, including things like replacing Ash with a new protagonist, taking out Brock again, removing Team Rocket, but the one we all know they came to was taking Misty out of the show. Now, you might be wondering, considering I said that she was so beloved, why in the world did they get rid of a character so revered by the show's audience? Seriously, the backlash from fans was even to the point where people were shipping some death threats to the showrunners. Now that's not the Poke shipping I plan on talking about when thinking up this video. Nevertheless, Misty was and is a character widely regarded by the Any-Poke community as one of its best. So what led the creators to make this decision? Well, there are a few different ways we can see it. First off, you remember how I said the decisions and options were down to a couple? Well, after a while, it dwindled down to either replacing Team Rocket or replacing her. This choice was made by the whole of the writing team behind Pokemon, but ultimately the final say was made by Takeshi Shudo, aka the showrunner and lead writer from the years 1997 to 2002. As a writer and creator, Takeshi was one who unfortunately relied on alcohol as well as some other non-Poke friendly substances to fuel his creative process. However, even with this being known, he still maintained a very high role in Pokemon's writing staff, and as such he held quite a bit of power as it were. So when the animation staff and general brand was under fire for the Electric Soldier Porygon episodes, all eyes were off the writing staff, and as such his power only grew, practically letting him do whatever he wanted. In fact, when the writing for the first movie was underway, he was pretty much given free reign to write whatever he pleased, which is a leading reason to why that movie is so dark. Not gonna lie, it's kinda odd to think about the first Pokemon movie as something of a crazed alcoholic bender by Takeshi. However, it's through this movie and the success of it that he gained practically all the power when it came to overseeing the writing of the show and everything related to the Pokemon anime. Fun fact, he even designed Lugia, which is of course the centerpiece of the second film and subsequently one of the most popular legendaries of all time. Now, how does this all track its way back to Misty, and what does it mean for her character and why she isn't featured in the show? Well, it's cited in several reports by writers on the show that between Team Rocket and Misty, that aforementioned showrunner had a clear and open bias towards the Rocket trio, even citing several reasons for his disliking of the animated Ginger. Not that one, I meant Misty. For real though, Takeshi had some genuine gripes against her, noting that he found her character to be weak and not nearly as engaging. Conversely to him, however, there were several members of his staff that openly and actively disagreed with him, saying that she was a key part of the anime's success to this point. And with the advent of hindsight, maybe he would have seen it their way, seeing as shortly after her departure, the show saw a massive dip in its audience numbers, as about a third of its Western audience quit out on the anime, which was of course extremely alarming to see from an executive's perspective. As such, they brought her back for 2 episodes towards the end of the Advanced Challenge series for a ratings boost, and of course to get some eyes on their current Poke product. However, following this trend, they didn't decide to bring her back in the following series, Diamond and Pearl, by then even replacing Max and May for Dawn and Ash's Sinnoh journey. Which I gotta say, at that time it seemed like it would be a no-brainer to bring Misty back. That being said though, as we in the modern day know, that didn't happen, and the trend of companion swapping would continue, just like if our never-changing 10-year-old was the Doctor from Doctor Who. Every single region from Unova to Galar has seen a fresh set of faces accompanying Palad's Pride on his Pokemon journey rather than them going back to rely on old faces. You know, aside from the few episodes further down the line where older characters are featured briefly for 1 or 2 off episodes. That said, it's kinda sad to say that Misty was the first character to go away and stay gone for the most part, especially considering how many of us enjoyed seeing her and Ash's dynamic in the series. Poke shippers, as some would call us, enjoyed the more romantic teases as well as the general pushing each other to be better attitude the pair shared in the series. As such, Misty's character to Ash met a fitting conclusion at the end of her final episode as a main cast member with these lines.
It's just something that I feel I need to tell you.
Alright.
Just keep on doing your best.
To which she follows up by saying the words I played at the start of this video. You know, without me there. This scene is arguably one of the most debated when it comes to talking about her exit from the show, considering a lot is said. Even still though, many people think that she held back a few things here. I think it's pretty understandable too, considering how dejected her expression was in what she says and how she says it. Of course, Misty would always root for Ash, but to many people who saw this, it was an instance of unrequited love, and as such it makes this ending scene a lot more depressing. These two, who had continually pushed each other to be the very best version of themselves that they ever could be, would be split forever. You know, aside from the times where they bring her back, but that's semantics. So, for all the reasons we spoke on in this video, this is why we came to that final conclusion on screen, which were of course met by nothing but smiles between Ash, Brock, and Misty. Honestly, to this day, it makes me wonder how different Pokemon would have been if they had gotten rid of Team Rocket and kept Misty, for example. I genuinely wonder if they still would have introduced Max, May, or Dawn, or even Serena, or any other companion. I'd imagine that at some point or another, we likely would have seen a change, but at the same time, it does make you wonder. As far as inspiration goes for making this video, I actually read about this a few years ago. It quickly seemed like a really cool video idea to explore, and hopefully you found this to be somewhat entertaining and maybe informative too. If you did, make sure to drop the video a like and maybe even consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future. I'm also really curious on what your thoughts between Ash and Misty are and what you think of them. I know not everybody here is going to be a Poke shipper or anything like that, but I'd still really like to hear what the perception on Misty is in the modern day. Speaking of, I touched on some aspects of Poke shipping in this video, but I do at some point want to make a full video dedicated to it. You know, considering I just enjoy stories and characters that tackle the idea of romance. If that's not already obvious. So you can expect that sometime down the line if you're interested. Anyway, just like Misty did, I'm gonna dip out for right now, but if you want to check out some of my other Pokemon videos, I'll leave a link to them in the description down below. That said, I hope you stay safe and be bold, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.